We are continuing our series on breaking down key trends that are affecting the community management industry as we lead up to CAI's CEO MC event this September. Our next topic is AI. I am hearing AI everywhere. I'm sure you are hearing it AI everywhere. And I don't know about you, but it kind of makes my head spin. There's so much new stuff coming out, or so many new things being talked about. It's been really hard to synthesize all the information, but also things are iterating so much faster because of AI that it is kind of, you always feel like you're behind. Even if you're implementing everything you hear, you always feel behind on AI. And I have a friend who's really in touch with all this, and she even feels behind on it, and she has built companies based on it. So that made me feel better and worse in some ways. But AI is here and it is starting to impact our industry. So I'm going to break down the waves of AI that I am seeing. And the first wave is getting your teams comfortable with communicating with an AI agent like ChatGPT. ChatGPT now, most people have heard of it, have asked it questions. But the first wave is really you and your team getting comfortable using AI agents like ChatGPT, because that's the way things are going to be done in the future. You're going to be typing and asking questions to these different agents. And so you want your team to get comfortable with it. The second wave is that we're starting to see very specific tools come out that serve a specific purpose. And we're really going to see these coming out in the main management company softwares. So if you're on, of course, you're on a management company software at this point, you want to make sure you're following their build schedule and what are those AI pieces that they are going to be rolling out. So, for example, we're going into budget season, and there are now many AI tools that can help you with that first draft of the budget, which is a huge time saver. And then wave three is that we see either larger companies or PE firms that are building their own internal AI agents. And so in the future, I see that that could be potentially a pretty big competitive advantage for the companies that are able to take their own internal best practices and services and create it into their own proprietary AI agent. So where can you start right now? If you're like me and you always feel a little bit overwhelmed with it, the first step is just getting used to using ChatGPT. You want to get comfortable communicating with an AI agent. Second is you want to make sure that your management company's processes are mapped. You have to have standard operating procedures for AI to start taking over those specific pieces. So when you process map your company, AI is going to come in and start taking specific pieces of that process and automate it. And then over time, as it gets better, it's going to take over more and more of that process. But if all of your team members are using different processes and doing it their own way, AI is not going to be successful in your company. So start there, define your processes, and make sure that your team is following those set processes. And third, make sure that you are getting the maximum use out of your management company software. People say we only use 20% of our phones. It's the same with our management company softwares. Really make sure that your team is being trained and using those to the full functionality that's available to you. If you start there, you can start to ride this wave of AI.